Good afternoon and welcome to today's Teaching Artist Tuesdays, a town hall. Are we ready to rumble? We have been following a long stream of conversations here on Teaching Artist Tuesday, and we are really excited about today's topic. First, though, let's talk logistics. We are so excited to have you here participating either live or on Facebook or through the websites. So please, if you have questions, insert them into the chat box and we will share them with our panelists as the conversation goes along. In addition, be sure to catch the website for the North Carolina Central University's Teaching Artist Certificate program, or you can look up their Facebook page, and that link will be in the chat later on. You can also find the recorded sections of all the other Teaching Artist Tuesday sessions on either the North Carolina Arts Council webpage or our Facebook page or on the North Carolina Central University Teaching Artist Certificate Program page. So be sure to check them out. Today's session brings us to a discussion of what's next. We've moved through nearly 9 months now of COVID, and as we move towards the end of 2020, we're starting to wonder what will be the way forward, what's coming next. This discussion today will cover what federal, state, and local funders are planning for 2021 and beyond. How do you best provide and prepare in a climate of uncertainty? And they may not know either. I don't know, but we're going to hear from them today. I would also like to reintroduce to you my colleague, Lenora Helm Hammonds, from North Carolina Central University, where she is the vocal jazz department lead and the director of the Teaching Artist Certificate program. So Lenora, I'm going to hand it over to you to get things rolling.
Thank you so much, Sharon. It is my esteemed honor to be in collaboration with you in North Carolina Arts Council. This has been a lot of fun. And if anyone who's watching doesn't know, Sharon was right into the information to share with you, but she's our Arts Education Director at North Carolina Arts Council. So, well, without further ado, I'm so happy. I'm so excited about it. I feel like dancing right before you hear everything that's going to happen today, but you must know Dr. Tamara Holmes Brothers, who she is. So I'm going to read her entire bio. She'll probably go, oh no, but you must know this fabulous woman. Okay, Dr. Tamara Brothers was appointed Deputy Director of the North Carolina Arts Council in April 2020. Dr. Brothers is charged with the design, development, and implementation of agency programs, recommends policies that realize the agency's mission of arts for all people, works with the staff and boards to create and implement strategic plans, and provides executive level support to the agency's director. Dr. Brothers leads the work of assessing the effectiveness of institutional equity, diversity goals, and outreach efforts. She works closely with the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, leadership, and other state and national arts organizations to prioritize and define strategies that deliver resources to arts organizations and artists to encourage projects and programs of public value, including revitalizing downtowns, helping youth succeed through creative approaches to education in and beyond the classroom, healing the wounds of war for active military service members and veterans, and fueling a thriving nonprofit creative sector. Dr. Brothers also organizes and assists in leading the infrastructure to facilitate internal and external community engagement, develop partnerships to bring about transformational change, identifying and supporting target areas to maximize the agency's impact locally, regionally, and nationally. Dr. Brothers has experience in the fine and performing arts industry, grassroots marketing, and governance, quantifying the value of brand and philanthropic outcomes. With a diverse background, she previously served as Director of Development and Major Gifts at the National Museum of Art at Duke University, Director of Corporate and Foundations Relations, as well as the Assistant Athletic Director for Developing Development and Marketing at Fayetteville State University. While at the Nasher, Dr. Brothers supervised the museum's development operation, providing leadership for advancement programs and initiatives, and was responsible for planning and directing all fundraising activities, including major gift cultivation and stewardship, individual annual giving, membership programs, corporate giving, and sponsorships, as well as foundation and government grants at the National Museum of Art. During her tenure at Fayetteville State University, she led the university's corporate foundation and athletic development efforts and played a central role in achieving university capital campaign goals. Giving back to her community, Dr. Brothers has served in multiple capacities. She has served as the second African-American woman president of the West Fayetteville Rotary Club, former board member for the Second Harvest Food Bank, and former board member of the NC Arts Council Foundation Board, Arts North Carolina Board, the City of Fayetteville's Historic Resources Commission, the Partnership for Children of Cumberland County Board, founding steering committee member for the Friends of African American Art at the Fayetteville Cumberland County Arts Council, as well as the president of the Hampton University Museum Foundation Board. She currently serves as vice chair of the North Carolina African American Heritage Commission, a member of the North Carolina National Register Advisory Council, as well as the National Advisory Board for Museum Q. Dr. Brothers is a native of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and has earned a bachelor's degree in art from Hampton University, a master's in sport management from West Virginia University, a certificate in historic preservation from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, a certificate in art as an alternative investment from Sotheby's Art Institute, a certificate in nonprofit management from Duke University, and a PhD in educational management from Hampton University. We are in great hands. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with your thunderous applause, Dr. Tamara Brothers.
Thank you so much, Lenora. Thank you first to our panelists and to our audience for bearing through that introduction. I know it's quite a bit, and I like to keep busy, as you can see. Thank you again, Lenora. I am so pleased to be here today and moderate the discussion with our esteemed guests. At this time, I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. Shana Adams is the Director for Creative Arts in Public and Private Schools Programs, also known as CAPS, at the Durham Arts Council. CAPS places professional teaching artists into the community and area schools to provide students with arts integrated residencies and cultural experiences. Shana earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in voice at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and a master's in arts administration from the University of New Orleans. She participates in the Americans for the Arts Mid-Career Arts Leader Steering Committee and is a member of the Dementia Inclusive Durham's Action Team and Arts Committee. In addition to her work in arts administration, Shanna facilitates sound healing and vocal meditation experiences. These efforts offer a guided exploration into the multifaceted nature of the voice and sound that support healing and relaxation. Welcome. Next, we have Cheryl Schambly, who is the Executive Director of the Chatham Arts Council and has more than 20 years of experience as a nonprofit leader and theater artist. She led the launch of the new focus and identity of the Chatham Arts Council, including the creation and implementation of the Chatham Artists in Schools initiative. Cheryl's nonprofit work centers around impact and sustainability, and she coaches leaders, boards, and creatives in times of transition. I'll say that line again. She works with her work centers around the impact of sustainability and coaches leaders, boards, and creatives in times of transition. We'll definitely need that today. She also has specific focus on the power of storytelling for organizations and individuals, and she makes her own storytelling art at One Broken Teapot. I'm sure we'll certainly benefit from her expertise today. Next, we have Christy Chanowski, who is the Director of Arts in Education and Outreach at the Schaefer Center for the Performing Arts at the Turchin Center for the Visual Arts at Appalachian State University. Influenced at an early age by arts education, Christy pursued a vocation that promotes learning in and through the arts and connecting university arts resources to community members of all ages. She works closely with university faculty and staff, community organizations, and the network of public, private, and home schools across Western North Carolina. Christy has held positions in public schools and arts organizations and has a BS in theater arts education and an MA in arts administration. Thank you for being here. And finally, we have Nikki Estes, presenting and touring director at South Arts. Nikki has worked in the Atlanta nonprofit arts community for 25 years. She joined South Arts in May 2003 and manages several grant programs that award close to $600,000 annually to approximately 100 presenters within a 9-state region. She also manages special initiatives that support the presenting and touring dance field Momentum, a network of 5 Southern dance companies, and the Dance Touring Initiative, a network of 25 Southern dance presenters. Before her work at South Arts, Nikki was the grants supervisor at the City of Atlanta Office of Cultural Affairs, also known as OCA. While at OCA, Nikki also assisted with the management of the Youth Arts Program and musical festivals. She has participated as a panelist for the National Endowment for the Arts, Alabama State Council on the Arts, Georgia Council for the Arts, Kentucky Arts Council, Louisiana Division of the Arts, Mississippi Arts Commission, South Carolina Arts Commission, Fulton County Arts Council, and the Woodruff Arts Center. I'm not the only busy one here. In July 2020, Nikki joined the Board of Trustees for Dance USA, a national service organization for professional dance. She also served on the board of directors for Atlanta Celebrates Photography and advisory board for the Atlanta Foundation Center. Nikki holds a BA in Arts Administration and an MPA for Nonprofit Management from Georgia State University. Thank you, ladies, for being here with us today. Are we ready for the rumble? What does that mean as we consider today's funding implications for the arts and cultural sectors? We'll begin with our first question for our panelists today. Our first question: as you each approach the work of artists and teaching artists in slightly different capacities, we are interested in hearing your views of the current funding climate and the work that you do. What is the status of your organization's current funding, and how has it changed your programming? If anyone would like to go first. Cheryl, perhaps?
Okay, I'll jump in. All right, let me tell you a little bit about what we do real quick. So we at the Chatham Arts Council have a program that we started in 2015-16 called the Chatham Artists in Schools Initiative. And we started that program, so that was a little more than 5 years ago, with 2 schools, serving 2 schools, 2 residencies. And as of last year, we grew it to 13 schools. This year, we're serving 14 schools. And so that's every public elementary school in our county. So that's sort of my come from where I'm going to be talking about funding climate and how that has affected programming. So I'm going to jump right into funding climate for the moment to say there are sort of 3 pots that we have been looking at. And so in order for us to deliver these programs, I muted myself. Okay, so in order for us to deliver these programs and to pay artists to do the work that they do, we have sort of 3 pots. So one is the local government funding, one tends to be for us state government funding, and then one more arts and education wise would be private funding. So that would be sponsorships from local businesses, corporations, individuals. So to touch each of those super quickly, for our local government funding for this year, that stuff was already in progress, right? So we had already applied, we had already very early in the pandemic been approved for that funding. So what it is coming down to for us in that chunk, which is for us a significant chunk, is being able to prove that we can still deliver in this environment. Okay, so that's one. And then state government funding has shifted, gone to artist relief and artist organization relief. So for us, that's been a gap that we need to fill. And then sponsorships has been is a very mixed situation right now. There are some folks that are in a great position and can still step forward with us, and there are other folks who cannot. And so that creates sort of another gap that we need to fill. So looking at that, how does that affect our programming, which in turn affects both the students and the teaching artists? So one way is this: we had to make some decisions. So we had to figure out what we had to cut. We had to make some cuts. So our choice, and luckily so far we've been able to hold to this choice, is that we were going to cut everything we could that did not involve paying artists and paying staff to help keep the program going. And so as an example, that meant we cut our entire marketing and PR budget, like the whole thing, gone. Which is wild, and not a great long-term solution, but we felt that in this moment that it was a good solution to be able to keep employing artists. So that's one. Two is that we're needing to ask a huge amount of questions of our artists and also of our schools, and we're making some big pivots there. And so just to give you a super quick view into what that looks like, we're used to bringing residencies into all 14 schools in person. And this year, right now, though it's still in flux, it's probably going to look like spring only, January to May. And it's probably going to look like a virtual Artist of the Month countywide, plus at each school will have an option for a sort of more intimate residency that can come in one of three ways: either virtual live, so synchronous virtual, or truck and trailer roving through a community that doesn't have great internet access, or one class physically distant live option. That's where we're getting to. It's required a lot of conversation. So that's a second effect. Third effect, what else did I want to tell you? Oh, yeah, I wanted to tell you about the focus of our residencies has changed quite a bit. So two things in particular: resilience and trauma-informed arts education have risen quite a bit. And also, and that's because the funding climate is more open to that now, more recognizing of that need. Also, some work that we have been doing for some time to amplify Black and Brown voices through our teaching artist program the funding climate has also risen up to meet that moment. So more funders are looking with an equity lens. So those two things, sort of content-wise. And the very last thing is that we are already thinking funding climate and programming-wise, we're already thinking about next year. Because yes, there are impacts to this year. We're thinking that public funding wise, there may be more impacts even next year. So that's just as we're looking forward. All right, that's what I got right now.
Thank you for providing that overview and for thinking ahead for your community as well. Anyone else would like to offer their thoughts and current practices? Nikki?
Hi, I can jump in. Hello, everyone. So I just want to give a little bit of history about who South Arts is in case you're not familiar. South Arts is a regional arts organization. There are 6 regionals in the United States. We are located in Atlanta, but work in 9 southeastern states, and those include Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, the Carolinas, and Tennessee. We partner with the National Endowment for the Arts and the state arts agencies in these 9 states to provide programs and services. Our mission is advancing Southern vitality through the arts, and some of our strategic goals include supporting the artistic and professional growth of artists in the South, connecting artists and arts professionals to resources and opportunities, to advance programs that address the trends and needs of our Southern communities, and to celebrate the excellence of the arts in the South. So our funding mostly comes from the federal government, the National Endowment for the Arts, but also we have support from private foundations as well. And as a funder, we try to look at what is our unique role within our region, and typically look at what can we do that our partner state arts agencies aren't able to do. And so many of our grant programs, this was pre-pandemic, required the engagement of a Southern guest artist from outside of your state. So if you're in North Carolina, we would accept applications from organizations that wanted to bring in, if you wanted to bring in an artist from Georgia or from Kentucky. And so this is our way of supporting our Southern artists, helping them live and thrive in the South. Most of our grant programs support the public presentation, which is either a concert or performance or a reading by the guest artist, as well as an educational component, such as a workshop or masterclass, which could involve students or children or adults. And these grants support artist fees only. The focus of these funds are community engagement activities with guest artists. So our programs and services provide direct support and indirect support to artists. Most of our support goes to indirect support, which is our grants to organizations to engage artists, but we do offer direct support, which includes artist fellowships, professional development grants, our long-term initiatives like the dance program that was mentioned, but we also have a traditional arts initiative and a jazz initiative. And currently what we're doing is we're trying to be as flexible as possible with our grant making. We are, halfway through our fiscal year, so much of our grant making has already taken place, but we're trying to encourage virtual presentations. We're obviously extending project periods. We're trying to be really open to what's possible. We're also making some grant changes and allowing for in-state touring. So now we would accept grant changes from a North Carolina organization to engage a North Carolina artist, because we recognize that there isn't much travel happening, people aren't crossing state lines, and so how can we encourage artist engagement within the state borders during this time? Moving forward, we probably would think of some of these same things, but I think we want to be more creative and more innovative and totally rethink things, because this is the time to do it. So we're trying to be more strategic and intentional and responsive. We're looking at communities that are historically underrepresented by funding opportunities. And so we're taking, we'll have that equity and inclusion lens as well moving forward. And what I would say our response to the pandemic has been, in our opinion, pretty significant based on our history. We've had some additional funds come through, and we've offered grants to art service organizations for sustainability. We've offered grants to rural organizations and culturally specific organizations. A few weeks ago, we awarded over $1.5 million to arts organizations in our region, and we've also given funds to jazz musicians. Many of these grants have been opportunities to work with organizations and artists that have a wide reach in the arts community, but also organizations that we haven't traditionally worked with. So we're hoping to have new partners in the work that we do. Moving forward, and trends that we're seeing, and I think trends that we are going to consider moving forward is that, again, we want to be as flexible as possible. We're hearing that a lot from other funders. Many funders are able to turn project support into general operating support. South Arts isn't able to because of our federal restrictions. Again, we're taking a serious look at artists and groups that have been overlooked in even the current relief funding, and really trying to fill a gap when we can. And we're trying to figure things out too. We're doing scenario planning, encouraging innovation that supports sustainability. And for FY22, we haven't figured that out quite yet. Again, we are trying to balance being responsive to being thoughtful and innovative, and what does that mean in this world? So I'll stop there and let others chime in.
Thank you, Nikki. I can certainly attest to the work that you just spoke of. The North Carolina Arts Council was a recipient of your grant support in creating a new giving category, specifically for artists, organizations of color that do work within communities of color, but specifically led by people of color, which was an intentional distinction that we wanted to do. So thank you so much for the work that you do and for your advocacy and being a change agent for arts throughout the South.
Well, thank you for all that you do. Everyone's doing on this panel. Thanks.
Shanna or Christy, would you like to give us your thoughts as well?
Sure, I can hop in if you want. So I oversee some programs at the Visual Arts Center and at the Performing Arts Center on campus at Appalachian State. And our audiences are learners of all ages. So I kind of think of them in categories like K-12, university students, and community members. And we have been able to continue to serve each of those groups, although not in the same way we did at all in any of our programs. So we moved pretty much everything online, and really early on in the pandemic, we were able to reach out to the teachers that had that were frequent flyers on our program that had come to the K-12 Performing Arts Series that we host at the Schaefer Center each school year. And it's sort of a sister series to an evening events program that happens in the Schaefer Center. And a lot of times when we're able to and it's appropriate, we will share artists. So we have continued to do that, although sharing artists has been a little bit difficult to have it on our K-12 program. So what we've done is just beefed up our artist interactions in the university classroom with artists that are on that evening series. So I'm trying to think of a few good examples. We've had several this semester where the American Shakespeare Center has performed for us via the internet, and they had a couple of their artists go into classrooms through Zoom and lead workshops and that sort of thing. We were able to find out from our teachers in our school districts that they wanted as much flexibility as possible with the performances that we were offering to K-12 students. So something that was recorded and that they could come to not just at one specific time on one specific day, but that they could access over a period of days, and that they could allow students to enjoy at home, or they could watch all together. When some of them are in person, some of them are not. Some of them are sharing their screen, and that's how they're showing our programs. It's been really interesting to see how they're doing that. And then for our university students at the Visual Arts Center, we have always done an evening kind of workshop series that has gone on for several years. And what we wanted to do was make sure that we weren't leaving out that opportunity for our university students to have kind of an outlet, an artistic outlet. So we continued those programs, and as long as it's safe, we're able to offer free materials to university students to pick up if they register by a certain time and day. Then they pick up their materials on one day, and the next day, 2 days later, is the workshop. So that has worked really well. We do artist talks, and we've transferred that to a virtual platform, and it's worked well as well. As far as funding, we looked at probably 3 different scenarios on how to scale back our funding depending on what might potentially happen. We're really fortunate that we have a small endowment that we can use to help with some of our arts education outreach programs at the Turchin Center, and that has really helped us to continue all of that work. And several donors and corporate sponsors have stepped forward and said, we want you to be able to share quality arts experiences with K-12 students and teachers in particular. And they have sponsored the Applause series, which is our K-12 series, so that it's free and accessible to anybody who wants to join in. So I feel really fortunate that we've been able to make a little bit go a really long way this year. And my plan for next year is to kind of keep in that vein of thinking how to make really high quality arts programming accessible to as many people as possible in a meaningful way. So that's going to mean different things for different programs, but that's kind of how we approach each of those things. Are we really reaching out to our students? Are we reaching out to the K-12 community in our region? And how are we supporting our teachers? So we also do some teacher education and have had some really nice educator workshops. My personal philosophy on that is just to always emphasize professional development for teachers and help them. Just this year, our focus has been on helping them stay creative and focus on why they're doing what they're doing, and really just pouring into helping them feel good about the work that they're doing, which is so important and so necessary in this time. So we've kind of taken a look at everything that we're doing. We've scaled back a little bit financially, but I think that overall we've been able to continue the work that we're doing. So I feel really happy with how we're looking at next semester and then the next academic year as that follows, just because we've got a good way of moving forward with these folks that have sort of come on this experiment with us this semester.
Great. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing in helping to try and keep all the artist community sane during this time. Shanna, would you like to share with us?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I work with the Durham Arts Council, and just to give you a quick overview of the Arts Council, we're a private nonprofit in Durham. We serve Durham, we serve the Triangle region. Our funding comes primarily from corporate foundations, individuals, state, local funds. And the CAPS program that I direct, our Artists in Schools program, it serves around 53 Durham public schools and schools in surrounding counties, and also some private and charter schools and senior centers and community organizations. So we have a pretty broad program, and much of the activity has changed with the pandemic. The CAPS program is funded primarily through partnerships with area school districts, organizations, and corporate and foundation grants, as well as the Durham Arts Council's overall annual arts fund. And so the pandemic has affected all of those areas. Many of our partnerships and our ability to serve some of the populations has halted due to funding limits and programs being on hold, such as after schools and senior and library programs. But that said, through the pandemic, we've been able to focus to maintain relationships with these partners and to center our efforts really to partners where funding is in place. And so all of our programming has moved online. We are really grateful that we were able to continue teaching artist-led programs with our primary partner, Durham Public Schools. We spent the entire summer working with Durham Public Schools admin and artists to prepare for the virtual realm, and we're still working. We're still figuring it out. But last month in October, some of our first virtual programs happened in DPS schools. So we are celebrating this because it's been a long journey. Additionally, we've partnered with other arts organizations to leverage funding and create opportunities for teaching artists in some of those organizations are Arts Access, where we have teaching artists facilitating residencies with EC classrooms through Durham Public Schools, and these are virtual programs for EC students. We're partnering with ADF, American Dance Festival, and Carolina Theater to also roll out some programs in the schools. Some of our grantors and foundations that we receive funds from have graciously expanded the way in which we can use the funding as well. So that's been helpful.
Great, thank you so much. So as our viewing audience can see and hear, there's a wealth of knowledge here about the work that's being done within our communities and the various resources that are available across the state. So thank you all so much for what you're doing. As we continue to learn how to navigate these challenging times, Lenora will provide a results report from our first poll question with regard to this issue. Lenora.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brothers. And I just wanted to say a quick shout out to Nikki Estes and the work that they're doing at South Arts. I was one of those jazz artists that got relief funding. A lot of my, probably 90% of my touring just halted. So it was really helpful to have that love and tender care. And your staff is great. And for Shana Adams, also the Durham Arts Council, you've been great and had me on a virtual festival. And those things really help. That artist hat that I wear, I can't tell you what that means to us, is like that lifeboat in the middle of a storm. So let's hear from the attendees. I want you to respond. If you're listening with us here on WebEx or on Facebook, this is a question for you. I'm going to let the poll, I'm going to open this poll and let her rip. And then write in your question, your answer to this question. And we will let you know the results of everyone's entries after the next couple of questions. So you might have to be a little patient to get the result of it. Okay, so let's see. I hope you can read this. Give me a thumbs up, panelists, if you see that question. Great. And so I'm going to read it for folks who can't see that, who are on Facebook. As we see the ravages of COVID-19 on the arts and arts education sector, what do artists need? What do artists need to know from your perspective as artists, as you see the climate going forward for 2021? What is it that you want everyone on the panel to know? What you're going through, everyone in the arts and education sector. If you could write that into us in the chat, we're collecting messages from Facebook as well as here in the chat for the attendees. I'm going to back to you, Tamara. Let's see. Are people responding? Some people are.
Thank you, Lenora. So as we're waiting for some of those responses to come in, we'll continue our discussion with question 2. What do artists need to know to submit successful funding proposals or to get hired by your organization? Anyone like to tackle that on first?
Well, I'll start.
Okay, thank you.
So the Durham Arts Council have right now 2 grant opportunities for artists, and one is the Durham Arts Council Arts Recovery Fund. And that is to provide funding for individual artists and organizations who have suffered loss of income during COVID. This deadline is rolling, and again, individual artists and organizations can apply. The other grant opportunity is the Emerging Artist Grant Award. And this is a project grant for individual artist career development, and artists in Durham, Chatham, Orange, Person, and Granville counties can apply for this funding, and the deadline has recently been extended to November the 30th. And so the Durham Arts Recovery Fund is pretty straightforward. I would encourage artists to apply for that. You just really have to show that you have loss of income during these COVID months. And then the Emerging Artist Grant Award is a project grant. So a key to successfully submitting that grant would be to be able to show your strengths as an artist and as a project manager to meld both of those areas, and also to take advantage of opportunities that we have to have conversation with our organization, or really with any granting organization, and take advantage of being able to ask questions, email, or attend any information sessions that are available to you. In terms of the CAPS artist program, if you're an artist out there or a teaching artist that is interested in being a part of our program, right now we are prioritizing work with teaching artists who can provide engaging and curriculum supporting experiences, social emotional learning, cultural arts, and we haven't yet created an updated intake process for this time period. But if you are interested in participating in CAPS as a teaching artist, please just contact me, and we'll work together to make that happen. My email address is sadams@durhamarts.org.
Great, thanks so much. Maybe we could put that in the chat as well, like, throughout our conversation today.
Yes, I put the Durham Arts Council CAPS link in the chat a couple minutes ago.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Shanna. Any of our other guests would like to come in next? Christy?
So we are looking for artists that aren't necessarily the types of artists that we would normally look for. For instance, next semester we're working on presenting a program of shadow puppetry, and our 1,700 seat hall is not really suitable for shadow puppet. But because we're doing virtual programming and it can be on the small screen, I feel like the world has sort of opened up to a lot of different ideas. So we're looking at storytellers and shadow puppets and things that we aren't necessarily able to do on our large stage for the performing arts series. And I'm looking for artists specifically that can do maybe something that we aren't used to being able to showcase, but in addition to that, have some kind of a value added thing. So offering some kind of a professional development for teachers, or maybe a pre-recorded workshop that we can share with teachers to share with their class if their class has a particular interest in something. So I guess I want to encourage artists to be really creative and think outside the box on what might be available. So we're looking for all kinds of things, and I guess that was the main thing that popped out at me in that question, was thinking about we're asking our local school systems that are in our region what their needs are, and what they want us to do is be flexible and offer them pre-recorded content that they can access, and that has been a little bit difficult to find. So that's another thing I would suggest to artists, is just thinking about ways that their work could be shared kind of in an asynchronous way.
Great, thank you. And before we move on to our next panelist, there are a couple of comments that came up in our chat room today. So from Susan Hartley, she mentions that artists need to know who is out there for us to be on their rosters and be able to teach virtually or in person. And also from Penny DePa, I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. As a virtual artist, always looking for ways to exhibit in a way that people can have a tactile and versatile, engagement versus the digital. Let's see. And another comment from Sheila on Facebook. As a performing artist and teaching artist, all the work I've gotten since March has been outdoors or online. I prefer outdoor work because it maintains the person-to-person connection, which I think a lot of people are really missing right now, is that personal and intimate engagement. Thank you so much for our audience for those chats. So we'll continue on with our other two panelists with this question in particular. Cheryl?
Sure. I loved hearing those comments. They're really helpful. And the idea that people are really missing that in-person engagement, even if it's 6 or 10 feet apart with masks on, has been really present with us too, particularly in a county where, I can't remember if I've said this already, but there is a huge swath, huge in Chatham County where digital access is so challenging. And so it's almost not even an option. So we are looking for artists, not only in our teaching artist program, but also a program that we're a tiny event series that we're going to be launching in the spring called the Chatham Experience for artists that are up for a physically distant kind of COVID low risk in-person kind of presentation. So that's one thing. The other thing, I was sort of thinking in a holistic way, not just this year, absolutely this year, but also looking forward for working with our Artists in Schools program. One thing that I would say works best for us is for you to stay in touch, and that might be via email. That said, the form emails, though I know they're probably the easiest to put together, they tend to be the least likely to get read. So if it is an organization, if you really want to work with Chatham County's Artists in Schools program, I would encourage you to reach out in a way that is as personal as possible, and just to continue the conversation, because we are hopeful that we're going to work with an artist this year who we've been in conversation with for at least 5 years, and it just hasn't fit yet. But I think it's going to fit this year. So don't give up. It doesn't always take that long, but sometimes it just takes a while for the fit to work, right? And these are hopefully long careers we're talking about. All right, so that's one thing. And do your research about the program beforehand, because there's going to be stuff that fits for our rural urban county that doesn't fit for others, and vice versa. I hate for you to waste your time. Timing of reaching out. Obviously, great to have a continuing conversation. We tend to have a general, at least, idea of what our artist slate is going to be like for the next school year by February. So not that some opportunities don't pop up, but that is usually the timeline when we're starting to at least put things in pencil. Let's see, what else did I want to tell you? Oh yeah, I wanted to mention, at least in Chatham County, that the math and science curriculum connection is huge, and we have found fewer artists who are making that curriculum connection. So that the trauma-informed education, both of those things are really rising to the top for us right now. And I have one more. What was it? Oh, yes. So also looking for artists who can connect with our rural urban population. So that's a real, it's a very, we have a very big county, and folks have really different experiences from one side of the county to the other. So we're looking for folks who are comfortable connecting in both of those environments, and connecting with some populations that don't get as much connection. So that would be our Black and Brown students, and our students with socioeconomic challenged families, and other marginalized communities. So that's our teaching artists program. So you're welcome to reach out to me, Cheryl at chathamartscouncil.org on that. And then I just wanted to say a couple of things about funding, so that we partner with the fabulous Durham Arts Council. They are the lead on the Emerging Artist Grants, and they let us join in, which is so wonderful. Thank you. And so that, as Shanna said, that is that deadline's November 30th. Is that right? Okay. So that's ongoing. Chatham artists can do that. And also, we have an artist relief fund, the Chatham artists and arts workers relief effort that is a weekly, it's very simple weekly application. I hear a lot from artists. I had several phone calls this round of artist support grants and also emerging artist grants from artists saying, I always put so much energy into these grant applications and then I don't feel like I get anything back. So I just wanted to say a few things from somebody who has written a lot of grant applications and has read a lot of grant applications. This is what I got. The first is tell the truth. Just tell the truth. What you're doing is already good enough. It's already amazing. So tell the truth. Relatedly, be specific. Specificity is huge for a grants panel. They may not have the imagination that you have in the field that you're talking about. So be real specific. And then the last one, also related to both of those, is you don't need to flower it up. That dilutes what you're talking about. So nobody else may agree with me, but this is my perspective as a funder and as a grant writer. If it calls for 2,500 words and you've said what you need to say in 1,000 words, stop writing. Be done. That is what we need to hear. All right. Those are my three tips on that.
Thank you so much.
I love it because I can't tell you how many times I've read a grant application and it has all of this cushy, fluffy, oh, my music has pink balloons and, all of these things that I go, what are they thinking about? And been on the side of writing too much, overwriting, and just really not able to understand that succinctness is better, more words aren't better. So yeah, I appreciated you saying that.
If I can add one thing too, as someone whose life has evolved around grants for the last 6 years, we rarely get people that ask for feedback. You can call or write and ask for feedback so that the next time you submit your project, you can hone it a bit. So please do that. Reach out to people.
Yes, and on the front end, like Shanna said, I want to bump up that point too. You can reach out beforehand too. That's okay. It took me a really long time to learn that. And I thought, oh my gosh, how many wasted opportunities. You can call ahead and say, this is what I'm thinking about. Is this fit? Am I thinking in the right direction? At least in our, maybe not in every, but at least in our opportunities. You're encouraged to do that.
And please proofread, edit, and also make sure your budget, revenues, and expenses match.
Excellent advice. Nikki, you having suggestions as well?
Well, I echo everything that's been said already, particularly the last points that Sharon made, Cheryl, and Shana about, grant writing skills. And I know it can be challenging at times, so I won't repeat that, but I will say, generally for us, we don't hire artists. We support and fund projects by organizations that engage artists. And so what that typically means is that support material by artists is really key, particularly because of the organizations that typically submit applications to us. They are, particularly in these times, but even before the pandemic, looking at work online to try to discover artists that they want to bring to their space and communities. And so if the video or written materials about your work doesn't help them understand who you are as an artist or the work that's going to be presented or the quality of the work, that could be an issue. And it also translates into the panel review. So support material is really key. Also encouraging artists to contact us, even though the grant may not directly support you, which means that you don't submit the grant, but the organization does. It helps for you to really understand how the program is structured and the guidelines, because you are still an integral part of the project. So we encourage you to contact us and have a conversation. One of the things that we feel is really important is authentic community engagement activities that are meaningful, so not really cookie cutter. And we require all of our grants to include an educational component, and we don't want to see that as simply a grant requirement. We want to know and feel through the application materials that this is what the artist wants to provide, this is what the community needs, and this is how the organization wants to be invested in their community needs. So this doesn't necessarily mean large scale, it just means meaningful and thoughtful. And also the timing, again, is really important for us. We typically have a deadline, let's say March of 2021, and it's for the 21-22 season, but our organizations that are applying have been looking at artists for that fiscal year, probably at least a year, maybe even 2. So it is a long, maybe normal, longer than normal planning period. I mean, sometimes it does take a while for that project to come to fruition. So just, I know it's not easy to hear, but be patient. And all of the advice that you've already been given about preparation, I certainly echo that. And it was great to hear those questions. I hope that we get a chance to address them at some point.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So certainly communicating on a consistent basis on the front end to inquire to see if you're going in the right direction, and certainly on the back end as well in regards to getting feedback on your proposal, I think will certainly enhance your work as you're becoming an affluent grant writer yourself, along with being that active and practicing artist. So
can I mention one more thing? One more thing about application preparation, which something that we're beginning to look at is that we know artists and arts organizations, their capacity and skill are so wide ranging. And so some of the organizations that we fund have development departments, and some are volunteer run organizations. And we know that people are different learners and communicators. So one thing that we're actually looking at is how can we change our application process that is more inclusive? And we're looking and exploring things as maybe we shouldn't require a written narrative, and maybe we should allow the option to submit a video to describe your work. So, I think that our field will see some changes with how artists and arts organizations are able to explain their project and share more about their work in the future.
Great point. Thank you so much, Nikki. We'll move on to our third question. Some factions in the private and business sectors are telling artists to retrain for a different job during the current crisis. Based on your current knowledge, how would you advise artists to best prepare in a climate of uncertainty? That word retrain is kind of tough.
That's scary.
Like to start off with that?
Well,
Nikki?
I like to talk about this. I just had a great conversation with an artist a couple weeks ago, and it really is about not retraining and planning for this unfortunate future that we don't know what's going to happen, but really thinking about rethink how your work is presented and shared. So this was a dance company whose work is really centered around social justice, but they know that dance may not be happening in the near future in spaces. And so, I think they're challenged with how can they position their social justice work, right now where we are in our world, how can they use that as an opportunity in the current environment, as opposed to dance being more so the tool or the method. Maybe it goes beyond that. So really just being able to rethink how your work is shared and presented. And of course, we know virtual is an option, and also someone mentioned outdoors, but what else? As Cheryl said, in the South, there's a digital divide, so that's not always even an option. But one thing that I'm hearing a lot of is that organizations are thinking of a hybrid, so perhaps virtual now and later in person, and so that helps to support a longer relationship with the organization or the funder. It also supports and strengthens the work in the community for a longer lasting impact of the project. And finally, I would say what I'm hearing from organizations is they really would like to collaborate more with artists in helping shape and design how they work in the future. They're looking for artists to come to the table with their ideas to how they want to share their work, as opposed to coming up with the answer themselves. So being more collaborative than we have before.
Great point. Anyone else like to share their experience in the field and what they're hearing about this phrase of retraining?
I would love to say yes to what Nikki just said about collaboration between artists and arts orgs, artists and arts administrators in a new and more active way, so that we can get the best, so that we can really use everybody's creativity and skill set to make some really awesome new things happen. Absolutely. I was thinking about this retraining question, and I will say I am an artist who has always had another job. And so this question really like hits in a special spot for me. And so I do have some thoughts about going forward. But before I say that, before I share those thoughts, I really want to say this. Only you know your situation. And if you are in a situation for whatever reason that you need to do some work that is not artist work, that is okay. And if you need to do some work that is artist work, and then your exhaustion level because of family or pandemic or fighting the good fight and this job means that you don't make any art for a month or a year or even 5 years, that is not ideal, but that is okay. And it does not mean that you are not an artist. You are still an artist, 100%. That being said, I 100% believe that art is work, and that artists deserve to be paid for their work. And I also 100% believe that the world really needs artists right now. So if you can keep making work, here are some things that I wanted to mention. One is take advantage of what's out there. Before you go to the retrain or the cross-train or whatever it is, take advantage of the relief funds that are out there. Take advantage, do your research about possible grant opportunities. Like some of this stuff that Nikki is talking about, I didn't know about. And I'll tell you, if you're an artist and you come to our organization and say, hey, this is an organization's grant, but I have an idea for it, can we partner on it? I'll be so excited to have that conversation. So take advantage of that kind of thing, but also the relief funds, whether those are artist relief funds or whether those are, like in Chatham County, Department of Social Services has some relief funds that have to be spent by December 30. So don't wait until you are at the barest bones that you can get to. Go ahead and apply for those things, please, to take advantage of what's out there. Also, linking back, take advantage of your best asset, which is, I think, creativity. Artists are so creative. So I get so excited, I mute myself. As Nikki said, think about other ways that you could deliver your offerings, ways that you could diversify your income stream, new ways for people to pay you, all of those things. I got one more. Hold on. I'll be right with you, daughter. So, the one more is challenge yourself. If it's not your sweet spot to be organized and diligent and keep up with your relationships, challenge yourself to to push a little bit on that, because those relationships and keeping up with them are so huge. We have been totally surprised by at least 3 different funding streams this year. And we've been able to help folks who are in our artist family that way. So make sure you're maintaining your artist family and your arts administration family. That can be a really big thing. All right. Excuse me for one moment.
Her mother duties call. Shana or Christy, would you like to add to that part of the conversation as well?
I don't know that I have much more to add, but I would like just to say I can't agree more with most of what Cheryl just said. And I would just like to offer that one of my really close friends who is an artist, who's been a working artist, called me a few months ago and said, this is going to sound weird, but I feel like I need an 8-to-5 job just to keep my head in the game. Like, I feel like I go down to my studio and I'm spacing out and I'm just not productive. And I just need something to give me a little bit more pressure. So I think if I have some kind of thing that I have to do because someone's counting on me to be there at that certain time and meet them, or, she said, I think I just need to do that for my own self. So I guess when I read this question, when I heard this question, my thought was, you know yourself best, and if you need to put some boundaries around yourself to give that structure so that your day just shifts in a different way, and then you have different pockets of energy for different projects, then that seems like a really good thing to do. She was hesitant to do that because she's worked really hard to be in a place where she could be an artist. She's always been an artist, but she's always had another job as well. And so just in the last few years, all she's done for a living is make art. And so she was kind of feeling like it was a defeat to go to that. But honestly, I feel like it helped her art practice so much to have that structure of something completely non-arts related to do for part of every day, that she was like, I feel like just in the last few weeks since she's been doing another job, she's like, I don't ever talk to her. She's down in her studio every night. I think it's kind of exciting because she's invigorated and she has time. She has all these other things that she's just processing through when she's making her art. It kind of gives her that separation. So I don't know. I guess I wanted to offer that as an encouragement too. Sometimes you're an artist and you do something else as well. And I think that can really benefit your practice as an artist.
Encouragement is always good, especially when you're able to hear from other people outside of your immediate circle. So it's just that friendly reminder to help us stay focused and stay encouraged. So thank you for that. Any other comments before we move on?
Yeah, I think Cheryl and Christy just, I have had many conversations over the last couple months with artists, and yeah, it's basically a mix of all of that. Some are moving towards something else. Some are taking some time and space right now to just really think about, what do I want to do next? How do I want to shift into online, or maybe not online? Maybe I just want to take a break for a while until things return to normalcy, but just taking that time to really think about what you want and not let a lot of outside voices direct that, and just open to what happens, to what you need, and do what's necessary right now.
Wonderful.
I want to jump in on the retrain conversation, because this really hit me in the gut when I read this, flitting about on media about what some organizations were saying to artists about retraining. And I think there's some important opportunities in that perspective if you retool, right? So I had to think about, as an artist, the artist side of me, this is a time to reorganize my website, or reorganize my work samples, or look at my bio. Is my bio updated? reach back out to people who I haven't had a chance to like sit on the phone with, or to send emails, respond to emails. So that was one way, but also looking at the collaborative element that each of you have talked about. There was someone who reached out to me, and we created a application to do a virtual festival. And I love what you said, Nikki, about you can be virtual and in person, and then separate that for a longer time of a relationship with the presenter. Some artists aren't thinking about that because we're typically been thinking, oh, when's my next gig? Oh, this is my tour dates. We're not thinking about, oh, I can do a virtual thing now, and then 9 months from now or a year and a half from now, we can come back as a follow-up to that first event or that first thing. Another thing that a lot of artists that I know have been doing to retool is using alternative venues. I know musician Orrin Evans, he's a pianist in Philadelphia, and he's created a whole festival in his driveway. And it's called Porch Thing. I forget the name of it, but then he had other presenters start to use the virtual version of that in-person, driveway concert and driveway festival. Seth Godin, who I love, I read a lot of his books. He had something that was a really interesting challenge to say the non-urgent advance. He said, sit for 4 hours somewhere, just you, maybe one other person, but that's it. Get pens and paper out and just think about what is it that you want to do and you need to do, kind of what you were saying, Shana, and just make an assessment. Then if you can't answer the question about what's next for you, and if you're too busy to sit, and do that, the pandemic gave us all this time, but this is an opportunity for you to reframe and think about what you do in a different way, and not to be offended when someone says retrain. And then lastly, the entrepreneurial self, like Eric Booth told us on our very first series, that be entrepreneurial or die. And so some of the things that I did that were useful was I loved liner notes when we had album covers. Like when we moved from CD to albums to CD, I missed liner notes, like opening them and reading what the artist loves to think about, ways to think about the artist's process. And so no matter what discipline you're in, you can create that, a fly on the wall for your audience. Make liner notes, make a program notes, what they sometimes call them in a program at an event. And send that out to your audience, or send that out to some of the presenters and programmers. This is what I'm thinking about my process. And then mentoring, reach out and mentoring. I've reached out to mentor younger artists who have kind of been, talking and emailing me all along the way that I never had time. So it was another way to retool, because when you teach, you learn twice. And then you find out what their questions and their issues are, and says, oh, I know 5 people that can help you. And then you send some emails, and it just creates the energy around you where you're still moving and creating.
Great. Thank you so much, ladies, for your comments and your expertise today. Lenora will transition back over to you to go into our second poll, and maybe while the audience is entering in their answers for the second poll, we can review the first poll results.
Okay, so the audience, I want you to think about this question. What do you feel you need to know more about for 2021? And hopefully when I push this open poll button, you can put in your answer this time. And then you can also write it in the chat and send it to the panelists and the host, and we'll be able to respond to you both on Facebook and here. So I'm going to push this, but this is the question. What do you feel you need to know more about for 2021? Okay, so we have some people starting to answer. Yay, that's working. I think we answered the questions from the first poll, right, Sharon? I think we addressed those because Tamara was able to ask them.
We did. Yeah, we did. There was one question that kind of came up inadvertently, and it follows up on what a couple of you have said about the need to kind of push yourself out there a bit, even if it's uncomfortable. We often have artists join us that are just beginning their career. So one of the things we might need to discuss is how do they initially contact funders? What is the best way for them to make that initial contact and build a relationship?
We have the poll response. It's munching away. If you see something on your screen that's distracting you, I hope it goes away really fast. Okay, 0 seconds. Okay. 3 people responded. Okay, I'm going to clear this out of the way, and then I'll save those results and get to them.
I think the timing might be a little short for people to respond too. We'll have to work on that for the next one.
Yes.
So you have that time to process it and then type it out.
And type.
Were there any other questions from the chat room, Sharon?
We covered the only other questions, unless there are some on Facebook, and I do not have access to those. Lenore, are you seeing anything? Our Facebook participants?
No, Karen. Karen, do you see anything on Facebook?
Oh, Sheila on Facebook just says technology with an exclamation point.
I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but I've been one of those people who have reached out to funders before, and I really like just calling and introducing myself and talking about what programs I'm thinking about or projects I'm thinking about and how that might fit with the things that they fund. Right now, it's probably a little bit different because people aren't in their offices in the way that they used to be. And so I don't know if some of you all that work at funding institutions, if you have ideas of ways to, connect when artists are interested in approaching me about working in arts education at the church and center, they can come to an event and that sort of thing in normal days, and now it is a little bit different the way that we're reaching out to each other. So I don't know if you guys have thoughts about how to do that or not.
Well, I certainly welcome the idea of reaching out to funders and sharing more about your work and what you do and having a discussion about what programs might be a good fit for this work. I would also say do a little bit of research before you call and really understand their funding philosophy, what their, some of the guidelines. So if you are an organization that's in California, it surprises me when I get a phone call because, we're South Arts, we're in the South, we support the South. So, and sometimes I know that information may not be as easily defined as we may think that it is, but just trying to do some research about what the priorities are, generally the types of things that they fund so that there is some awareness going in and it's not simply tell us everything that you do and how you fund and who you are, but really just maybe a better understanding so that can be a starting point of a more fruitful conversation.
We do have a couple of questions coming in. One from Susan asking again, what do schools want? In your communication working with the schools, what have you experienced that those their needs are that they're requesting?
So I would say that right now they are looking for just really any opportunities that can help support their curriculum. But everything is so new, even for teachers. So they're trying to figure out how to integrate our programs and when. And I think what is working for us is just having conversations, setting up Zoom meetings with teams of teachers and figuring out what would best serve their students right now. And it's different. It's different across the board with different schools and systems. So it's a little bit hard to answer that question, but I really feel like right now it's just taking deeper conversations to figure out what schools can utilize right now.
I would agree with that, Shana. One thing I've been encountering when I reach out to school systems, I'm thinking I'm going to get turned down, that they don't have the capacity to deal with it right now. On the contrary, they are so tired from the virtual, hybrid, all the stress that brings on, that the thought of having visiting artists, even if it's only virtually, and having that as a relief that connects to their curriculum, they get very excited.
I had the same experience, Sharon, when I reached out at the beginning of this year. It was to say, do you need us this year? I mean, I really want to ask that question. Do you need us this year? And the answer was an unequivocal yes. And we need you not right this minute, so please circle back. So which is totally understandable. And so, you know, we have been working with flexibility on the timeline, and some of the feedback that we have gotten, because we did a virtual shift actually in the spring. We had 6.5 out of our 13 residencies done. And so we did a virtual shift in the spring, like super fast. Our artists were amazing to just pivot so quickly. And we just made it available to the whole county, optional whole county, all these residencies. And so we learned a lot from that. And I think our teachers did too. I think our artists did too. And one thing that Christy mentioned was this idea of sort of standalone asynchronous packaging. And that is one place, that's where we're headed toward this virtual artist of the month as part of our programming this year. The idea of, okay, this class session or this half of a class can be filled in with this standalone asynchronous thing that is not just a fill-in. It has value for social emotional learning and connection to curriculum. So one of the things that we've been talking about is the need for some like 20-minute chunks and some 40-minute chunks. That may be just specific to us, but that is definitely what I've been hearing.
Great. We have another question from Penny. Some of the questions are tough. Political climate, health climate, when will we have a vaccine? I don't think we can probably answer that last part, but maybe a suggestion with regard to the political climate is, I think, just reaching out to our local legislators. We recently received funding support for, at least within North Carolina, to distribute across the state, unfortunately, with the exception of Wake and Mecklenburg counties, connecting with them and thanking them for their support, because they are, there is an arts caucus within our legislative community. So they are our internal advocates with their counterparts. So I think reaching out to them, thanking them for their support and continued advocacy is a start with relation to the political climate. And then, of course, there will be some new additions to the Arts Caucus as well with the new, with the recent elections as well. So making sure that you know who is on your, is your representative for your particular area on the Arts Caucus is certainly something that might be helpful. Anyone else have any comments in regards to the political climate and the health climate?
Well, I just say, I don't know that I can speak to those things, but I will just say to the tough questions that we're looking at and as we look at the year ahead. And I've just been trying to operate out of what do I know I can do? What are some projects that I know I can make this happen right now, today. And if things get worse, I know I can do this one thing. So one of the programs that we do at the Turchin Center is an after-school art program that is taught by art education majors. And I really wanted those art education majors just to have the opportunity of trying out lesson planning. And I knew that we weren't going to be able to do in-person classes. So we did some research and found a way to do a virtual class. We got all of the materials together and distributed them to parents. at the beginning of the semester. And tomorrow is our last class of the semester with the same group of kids. There have been, I think it's 7 families. And the idea is that each family, the kids kind of crowd around one screen. And there are 3 art education majors that are, they share the load of making a lesson plan together that's sort of put together almost like Google Slides or PowerPoint, so that if the child misses a week or if something, because things are happening right now, like worst case scenario, they have that slide and we know that we can share the Google Slides with them and a child can have an art workshop that somehow bases off of the work that's on display at the Turchin Center, ties into that, but gives them a way of making their own art that feels connected to that work. So that's kind of what that program has always been about. And we've been able to shift it and change it. And it is very different. So there are kids in some households, there are 2 or 3 kids crowded around a computer and they're sharing, it's moving back and forth, and you see scissors going around and they're making things together kind of like as a family, which is so nice. And also our students are getting the ability to kind of share in that, try out some lesson plans with actual children, which is something that sometimes they don't get to do until they're very late in their college career. So it's an important program that I wanted to make sure we could do it, even though it seemed like we couldn't do it, because we can't do it in the same way. So I guess that's sort of how I've been trying to approach all of those really tough questions that we can't, without a crystal ball, have the answer to, but just to think about, what do I know I can pull off, even if we're all in our homes, we can still do this thing this way. It's going to be different than what we're used to, but just kind of figuring out what the essence of the program is and carrying that essence forward, I feel like is the most important part of that. So I don't know that that's a real answer of those questions, but that's how I've been looking at next year.
I think it's a great point, Christy, and again, thinking outside of your normal box. And who are the people that you can work with right now? And one of the things that's been popping up is exactly what you've said. If schools aren't connected, a lot of times parents are connected with their children because they're at home trying to figure out, how to learn. And if you offer things they can take into the home and you have parents involved and whole families, it's that community arts aspect, only on a more intimate basis. And that's all good. That's still getting your name out there and making connections as an artist.
Well, great. Lenora and Sharon, any final words for the group today?
I just want to thank everybody on the panel for joining us, for your time, for your expertise and wisdom. It's invaluable. Thank you, Dr. Brothers, for your wonderful way that you guided the conversation. And we could have probably talked for hours about these topics. Sharon, I'll throw you the ball.
Yes, thank you so much. This is such a dynamic group. And for the people that are listening or watching, if you have questions, email us, contact us through our web pages, and we're happy to guide you and link you to the right people. That, as we said, it's all making a community and making connections and relationships. We are going to be closing here in a second, but I wanted to take a moment for those of you that are looking for your next Teaching Artist Tuesdays. In December, we're going to have a special listening session for artists of color. So if you are an artist of color and you feel like you need that community and that opportunity to be heard, please join us on December 1st. And that marketing will be going out relatively quickly. Lenore, do we have any other announcements? I think that was the only one.
No, I think I put everything in the chat that I could, but just that listening session on December 1st will be really important. As soon as you see that marketing, jump in, because we're going to make it a smaller session. So we'll cut off enrollment at a certain point. But it should be really an amazing opportunity. One of the ways that North Carolina Central University seeks to serve the artists in the state of color who may not have access to resources or even know what they don't know about this process. If you're an artist and have never thought about being a teaching artist, there are many different ways where your discipline may not fit into a certain peg or square, but you still have things that are very important to the community and to schools, as well as other places that use teaching artists, prisons, hospitals, arts and cultural centers, camps. So look for us because we want to support you.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again to our wonderful panelists. This was a joy having all of you here, and we'll say good afternoon to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.